Welcome to video 15 in a series of introductory videos for the SolidCAM CNC programming software. This video's topic is the setup of a turning project or a lathe project. We're going to start from the SolidWorks part. We'll go to Tools, SolidCAM New. In this case, we're going to be doing a turn part. So the options are turning and mill turn. And we actually would recommend you choose mill turn only because typically when you purchase a turning module from SolidCAM, we actually sell you the mill turn and we turn off the milling aspect of it. That's because you'll have access to more options from the mill turn than you would in the turning module. And those options are essentially, you can create multiple MAC positions. And that's actually useful for side 1 and side 2 of a turn part. So I'm actually going to choose that now, mill turn. Same window on the left that we've seen when we set up a milling project in video 3, we have the same options, external, internal, the name of the file, where it's being saved. If you'd like to review exactly what's going on in this window, refer you to video 3. So I'm just going to go with the green check mark, create my external copy of this file. The setup is exactly as we saw in video 3. I'm just going to choose my post processor from this file. Again, because we're inside of a mill turn module, we have options to choose either a turning or a mill turn post processor. Obviously, whichever one you choose, it's either going to give you both the milling and the turning options or just the turning options. Okay. Coordinate system is the same as we saw in video 3. So I'm just going to focus on what I would do for a turned part. So I'm going to go with select face, and under the place coordinate system origin, I'm going to put it at the center of the revolution face, meaning that any one of these exterior rotated faces, these revolved faces, will allow me to place my z-axis at the center of the rotation. So I'll just click on this one here. The z-axis is now center of rotation for the piece, but I actually want to start with my Mach 1 position 1 on the opposite side. So I'm just going to click on change to opposite. And at this point, I could leave it as is, but I'd like to use that keyway as a locator, just in case I need to put this piece back on the lathe to turn it again for whatever reason, just to clean up a face or whatnot. So I'm actually going to come over here to modify pick X direction, and just choose one edge of that keyway. And it makes the x-axis perpendicular to that keyway. So now I'm satisfied with that setup. So click the green check mark, and I have my Mach 1 position 1. But like I mentioned, I'm using a mill turn module specifically so I can add a second Mach position. So I'm just going to go add Mach 2 position 1. Again, I'm going to choose the cylindrical face, and it places it on the backside again, and that's actually what I'm looking for this time. But I still want to make sure that the x-axis on the back side is also lined up with the x-axis on this side. So I'm just going to choose that line there to align that x-axis. So now I have Mach 1 and Mach 2 aligned with the keyway, side 1, side 2. I'm ready to go forward. So green check mark. The stock, as we saw in video 3, we have the same define options here of STL, 3D model, and whatnot. Again, I refer you to video 3 to specifically see how those work. Now for turning of these ones, we'll use either cylinder or revolve boundary around Z. Revolve boundary around Z is essentially, if I brought in a sketch, it would revolve it around the center axis to give me a rotated, some sort of stock based off of that contour. It would just rotate it around and I would get a revolved stock. But the simplest one is cylinder. Relative to the model, I'm going to click on the model, and I get this minimum amount of material cylinder around the part. Now, obviously, I'm going to do some facing. I'm going to clean the exterior edges here. So relative to the model, I'm actually going to add in the positive Z direction, 10 thou, and you'll see that that incrementally changes. Let me just zoom in so we can see that change on the negative Z side. I'm going to add 10 thou on the back side. You see that that pops out just a little bit. Okay, so I'll do the same for the external diameter. I'm going to add 10 thou on the external just so that we can get some material to remove. Because again, in turning, it's a little different than milling. In turning, it's going to work off of the updated turn stock. So I need to tell it that there's material to be removed or else it will not generate a tool path. So green check mark. As soon as I click the green check mark, it'll take that stock boundary representation and create a profile of that I can use in my geometries. Let's go to target. So under target, similar to the milling toolpath the milling setup that we saw in video 3, I'm just going to click on the model, and that's it. Now I can generate two types of profile geometry, envelope and section. The envelope will be similar to what we saw with the stock. It's just going to take the part, it's going to actually spin it around. So if I took a part that had some pockets in it that eventually, I'll be doing on the mill or something like that, it's going to take that part, spin it around the rotary axis, and only give me a profile that represents the outside contour of that part. And that is with profile. If I chose section, it'll actually take a cross-section in the XZ plane and use that as my profile. So a good example of what would happen with that is if I were to do that here, my envelope is going to give me all the outside edges here and give me a complete circle on the inside, actually a straight line on the inside. Whereas with section, it'll actually include that keyway. So I'll have a contour on the top and a contour on the bottom, and the one on the top will have a line that actually represents the top of the keyway. So the purpose of this one, I'm just going to go with envelope. So as soon as I click on the green check mark, it'll actually rotate the part around, the parsing of the model, and give me a contour that represents the inside and the outside of that part. You can see that there. Okay, so that is it for the setup of the definition. But with turning, we actually recommend you do one additional thing, and that is setting up a machine setup. So we go to right-click, Operations. On the bottom of the menu, you see Machine Setup. And the machine setup essentially is I'm going to add the jaws of my lathe and tie them into a coordinate system. So right now I have coordinate system Mach 1, position 1 selected. If I click on the right side of this cell, I'll get a pull-down menu. I don't have any features currently defined, so I need to define one. So I'm going to click on these three dots. It brings me to the fixture definition window. You can define your fixtures either by the standard, which is what we're seeing here, just that simple representation of the jaws. I can click on user define and then click on a profile that represents the profile of my jaws, or I can bring in a 3D model of those jaws that I would have modeled somewhere else. But for today, I'm just going to go with the standard. The standard definition has those three steps on them. I can actually tell it where on the part I'd like to place, or where I'd like to place the part on those steps. Under chuck position, I can actually tell it the clamping diameter. By default, it takes the outer diameter of the stock, but if I were to do a side 2, I can clamp it on this face right here. And the axial position, I can put in a number relative to my coordinate system. So in this case, it says negative 89, 2.89 from that point there. If I wanted to, I could put a number in there, or I could literally just click on the solid and place my axial position anywhere I want. So in this case, let's just take it all the way to that point right there. Now that looks like a pretty small jaw. I can actually go to the jaw parameters and give it better dimensions. So if I just do that real quick, we'll have something that looks maybe a little more realistic. Okay, click the green check mark, click OK on that, and now I have the jaws or the chucks defined for my lathe operation. I can use those for collision detections and that sort of thing, spacing and whatnot. So that concludes the new turning project setup video. If you have any questions on how to set this up, you can give us a call at 1-866-975-1115 extension 2, or you can stay tuned for the rest of the videos on how to do the rest of the toolpath from SolidCAM. Thank you for watching.